10, starting to look at 11, that the Secretary maintained oversight of the entire picture as opposed to what can, and we all know this, and it can be, there's multiple apertures, multiple stray volts, and multiple agendas, both inside the building and out. And we took that guidance and we adhered to it, and there was still, even within that guidance, there was still later a venue for the Air Force, the total Air Force, including Air Force Reserve, and the Chief's unfunded requirements list included Air Force Reserve priorities and programs. So the intent of the guidance was not to say we could not tell the Congress what our unfunded requirements were. The intent of the guidance was to brief the Secretary and allow him to see it first. And the Chief, our Chief and Secretary did that. And it was a total force submission. Fair?
Fair. Thank you. I want to thank our honorary panelist, General Thompson, as well as our panel of colonels, each one of you. Thank you very much for coming today. If you'll all join me in a round of applause. We're just going to have a 10-minute break and set up for our final industry panel. Thank you. The delay. I tried to crack the whip, but then I got caught up myself. So we'll still get you out of here about 1 o'clock, and I want to welcome our industry panel. It's a pleasure to have them here today. I will go ahead and just, you already know who I am, and I will go ahead and just move down the panel, let them tell you a little bit about themselves, what they're currently working on, and where they came from previously. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. My name is Tom Crawford. I'm from the Boeing Company. Happen to live in Seattle, Washington. A little bit of my background is I was in the Air Force, active duty flying C-130s, B-1 bombers. Did a lot of interesting things in the Air Force, logging in the Pentagon, and one of the things I was very pleased about in my Air Force career, I was in the Pentagon in the mid-90s when we moved about half of the active duty tanker and C-134 structure into the Air National Guard and Air Force Reserves to take advantage of retaining those people in skill sets. After I retired from the Air Force, I came to work for Boeing about 12 years ago. I do business development, which is a nice term for marketing, worth of activities. And so I've been working a number of activities within the company, principally the 767 tanker program. So no tanker questions, but I certainly will talk to you on the break if you want. But right now I head up business development for an organization called Global Transport Executive Systems for us in the Boeing Company. That represents the VC-25, the C-32 out here at the 89th, but also is the E-4, E-6, the C-40A, C-40B, C-40C, and then also the T-43. So all derivatives of our commercial airplanes. And so today my principal purpose is to talk about C-40. And so I'll kind of focus in that area, but great to be here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is James Durrell. I'm with Lockheed Martin Aeronautics in Fort Worth, Texas. My current job is Director of F-35 Improvements and Derivatives. In that position, I primarily am responsible for maturing and developing the capabilities and technologies that will be incorporated on the F-35 as we get past the current SDD contract. We're currently working very closely with the JSF Program Office and our international partners to define the Block 4 and the Block 5 capabilities and get into a regular rhythm on technologies and spiral upgrades. In a previous life, I worked F-16 for quite a while. I've been working with Lockheed Martin and its heritage companies in Fort Worth for 25 years, but a lot of experience with F-16 and the improvements and derivatives team there. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Shepard. I'm proud to represent the Northrop Grumman Corporation, namely their electronic systems business area, which is out of the Baltimore and Rolling Meadows, Illinois facilities. A lot of the comments that General Thompson talked to today resounded with me because I'm also in my night job, as they call it. I'm also an F-16 pilot out in the 113th Wing in the Air National Guard. So I get to represent both the industry side, but I also have a personal understanding of the warfighter side. My wife as well as she, so we make it a little bit of a family affair. a lot of the programs that Northrop Grumman that plan to talk to you today have already been touched on a little bit by Colonel Dick and General Thompson, LAIRCM and the Guardian Pod, a lot of the EO/IR defensive systems, as well as a lot of the capabilities, not just in 5th generation F-35 and F-22, but also on the legacy platforms that the Air Force Reserve will be flying for some time. So again, I'm proud to be here today representing those business areas.
Great. What a terrific panel. I'm going to just open the floor up to Tom first to just offer up his thoughts and give us an overview, and we'll just move down the line, and we'll open it up for questions after that.
Okay, thanks, Mackenzie. One of the things is, as I start in, first of all, a lot of people aren't really familiar with what a C-40 is. Everybody knows an F-16, certainly. But Boeing launched the C-40 program about 10 years ago, and what that is, it's really a derivative of our 737 family of airplanes we have. We've been making that airplane for about 40 years. We've delivered almost 6,000 of them. We have another couple thousand on order, so a good stable platform, going to be around for a long time. And about 10 years ago, we got our first contract with the Navy Reserves to make the C-40A, which is a cargo and transport variant of the airplane, to replace the Navy's C-9s, and then that was followed on by the Air Force buying 4 C-40Bs for the commanders to move them with secure comm around the world. And then we began into the C-40C arena to carry VIPs to replace the older C-9 aircraft as well, initially with the Air National Guard at Andrews, and then most recently with the reserve unit at Scott Air Force Base. So we've got 19 of those various and sundry airplanes out right now. That represents about 1/3 of 1% of all the 737s. So I do have a lot of people look at me and say, why in the world is Boeing paying so much attention to a C-40 product line? It's because of who the customer is and the things we're trying to accomplish. And one of the advantages as we look at that in terms of how we leverage our modernization is when you only have one platform and you're the only customer, you really drive the cost of modernization. When you're a small part of a much larger fleet, especially the way that we work these aircraft is they maintain their civil certification. And so they're maintained to civil standards. And so as an example, the unit at Scott Air Force Base, first of all, is Colonel Davis still here? Okay, good. What I'm about to tell you will kind of puts him out of business, and I'll use the unit at the Scott Air Force Base, our reserve unit, as an example. They first got their airplane over 2 years ago. They've got 3 of them out there right now. Another one funded, so Colonel Dickinson, we're going to try and get that on contract for you by the end of the year. But in the history of those airplanes at Scott, the departure reliability has been 100%. And the mission capability rate is 99.7% over the history of the airplane. And so you get a chance to take advantage of those. As a matter of fact, I even asked our site representative to give me some really good examples of the Guard and Reserve working together. And he looked at me like I was from Mars, and he couldn't think of one because we really haven't had any problems we've had to resolve. I mean, the Boeing team at Scott is a total of 6 people handling spares, but the maintenance out there that's done by the reservists, a lot of those reservists also have civilian experience on 737s that they take and directly apply. And as General Thompson talked about earlier, if you think cyber is a good connection, just think about a commercial derivative airplane. And the same way with commercial airline pilots with 737 experience stepping in to the cockpit of a C-40. So we think it's a win-win in terms of modernization for the reserves, and certainly a great benefit to the Boeing company as well.
Great.
Lockheed Martin's committed to supporting the Air Force Reserve, and we think the F-35 is a big part of that. And the F-35 really is going to be able to provide some game-changing capabilities, especially in the area of very low observable stealth. All aspect stealth, the ability to operate in a very high threat environment really changes the way that combat can be done. The threat is continuing to evolve, whether it be missiles or weapons or airborne jets or even surface-to-air missiles. And as those threats continue to evolve, you need a flexible platform that can continue to grow, and that's what the F-35 is.